So we're just going to give it about a minute
Yeah.
and see if for audience to show up.
And they just have to go to YouTube, right? So I can let others know.
Yeah, yeah. The channel name is SJSU Undocu Spartans.
Okay, I'll let them. No, I didn't put the YouTube channel, which is
SJSU Undocu Spartans.
okay.
Okay, so we're gonna get started.
Okay.
So hello everyone. I am Jorge Espinosa. I am from the Undocumented Spartan Resource Center. And today's live is going to be on professional development resources for undocumented students. And today I have two guests with me. One is Eder Zamudio, who is an intern with the Undocumented Spartan Resource Center, and also Sharet Garcia, who is director of Undocumented Professionals. So today I'm going to ask Sharet, so what is professional development? How would you describe it, and why is it important?
Yes, thank you, Jorge. Thank you for the opportunity to have this conversation. And it's a pleasure to meet both of you. So I'm very excited to be here today to talk about this because I feel that we still don't have the opportunity to really talk about our experiences navigating from being a student to now transition into a professional. I think those are conversations that we need to have a little bit more were not happening. So I'm just glad that we're able to share space and talk about that. I do want to go ahead and start by kind of just giving you the definition of what professional development is, which is really a set of tools, resources, training, opportunities for professionals trying to improve the quality and effectiveness of their work, right? Of our services that we provide and of ourselves as individuals trying to get into the workforce. So professional development refers to trying to improve and developing like the skills to better meet the needs of that profession that you want to go into. And this is for any profession. It's a little bit different for every profession, but at the end of the day, it's something that is highly important for someone that is trying to transition to become a professional. So one of the things that it can help you taking advantage of professional development opportunities is really to have the more knowledge in the subject area that you're interested in. As you probably know, and both of you probably are may feel this way, that everything that we learn in our schools for whatever classes that we've taken is really not enough, right? It's not enough sometimes. So this professional development is an opportunity to continue expanding on the knowledge in that subject area that you're interested in. Also, it allows opportunity for mentorship. When we take advantage of professional development opportunities, we're really trying to connect with someone that is already in that position that you may want to apply to, or is a leader in that particular area that you're trying to go into. And we need to be open into learning from those leaders, right? Also, it gives an opportunity to learn new techniques. I think, especially now with technology really being making a lot of changes into all this profession. Even for me, someone that is in education, technology is becoming something that is changing our jobs, and learning something new, a new technique, a new tool, maybe a new, something in the technology field that may be helpful for your field is important. Also, it helps you to really stay up to date with your professional field. We, especially educators, I think, but any field really, we get bombarded with so much info. There's always updates, and this is another way to take advantage of professional development to kind of stay up to date without doing so much work, right? So I do want to give you some examples of professional development. Professional development opportunities are out there in forms of workshops, conferences, leadership sessions, maybe even trainings. Some of it is paid by your employer, some of it is not, and that's where I'm going to dive into a little bit more later on. But I do want you to think, when you think of professional development, would like you to think that it's a win-win situation in which you're learning and you're going to gain something from that, even though I know sometimes you have to pay for the services and things like that. But think of it as you're winning and you're the one benefiting from the professional development. So I think I'm going to leave it like that. But if you want to add anything else, please feel free to add more.
Sorry, yeah, definitely. And now I'll pass it on to Eder. So Eder, to you, what is professional development? Describe professional development, and why do you think it's important?
Yeah, so if anything, for me it was something funny because I didn't know what professional development was until later on. I want to say maybe even towards my senior year back in San Francisco State. Um, and we often hear professional development workshop in your college or opportunities for professional development through LinkedIn or either through our employers, other organizations that we might want to affiliate or volunteer. So we hear that term often, but especially us who in many cases might be the first ones in our families completing college, right, and getting a full-time job and being undocumented or not, or having a mixed status families, right? That is something foreign to us. It's a different language to say that. So maybe the first, from my experience, the first thing that we can unpack that is think of that as a not just as a one day thing like a workshop. It is more like a series of steps that one has to not just walk in the steps, but has to struggle in the steps because that's what it means professional development. You're being exposed to these particular experiences, set of skills, expectations that you in the future are going to encounter. But at the same time, this is just giving you a glance It's not a whole experience, because we know that in the professional field, well, whatever industrial field you're working on, nothing is really static. Everything changes, especially nowadays. So for me, professional development is, in a way, creating and finding the steps or tools necessary for you to become adapt to the professional field that you're gonna go into in the next few years. Now, this is also considering the fact that maybe if you're a junior right now, you're thinking of just completing a degree in accounting or finance, but who knows, you might like psychology and might want to get a minor. That means that you might have to understand that there's two things of professional development from those two fields. Yes, there might be some skills that you might be able to transfer, like networking or knowing how to speak with your teammates or coworkers or your director. But of course, at the same time, things are different because psychology is very specific as well as business. So I think that nowadays it's very important to at least, this is just an idea, uh, complete your undergrad degree, right, with at least 2 internships on your wing. Internships and or experiences that are aligned with your long-term goals, that is, right? And that is not an easy task to do nowadays because of the virtual environment. But I believe that at least 2 internships or so is something that you need to be at least prepared to be competitive. And that's what I think is essential. And I'm not just saying internships, but again, many of us have part-time jobs or side hustles, and if those align with what you want to do long term, even better, because you're having a very like experience, like you're facing it, so you have understanding of what it is. Yeah, I think that's what I consider professional development.
Yeah, thank you, Ede. Yeah, definitely. And
Yeah.
then the next question I have for you guys, and for you, Sharit, if you could answer first. So what are, as an undergrad, how did you navigate professional development? Um, could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, and I think I want to add to what Eder just said, where he touched into a lot of important points that he mentioned that it's not just one way of doing it. You kind of learn along the way. And I want everybody to know that I'm in this position where I don't feel I'm where I am. I'm still in this learning experience. I'm still kind of doing it as I'm talking to you today. I'm still trying to navigate that and trying to use what I have. And now I do take more advantage of professional development, but I know that I'm going to have to continue that moving forward. So that's what I wanted to share that that Ed mentioned. So I wanted to touch into that. And with that said, I do want to mention a little bit like of my before I dive into how did I navigated professional development. I think it's important to kind of do a little backstory. So just so everybody knows a little bit more of how my perspective is based on my experiences, is that I did navigate all my higher education experience fully undocumented. And I was in a position where I walked the stage before I graduated with my bachelor's degree, which was my undergrad, and now even with my master's, that's the same thing that happened. And what does that mean that I went and that I walked, but I didn't graduate? Is that I was able to walk because I finished all my required courses from school, right, from my program, but I couldn't get a diploma because I still had I was in payment plans and I had an outstanding balance. And as we all know, if you don't pay like the last dollar, right, you are still not able to get that diploma that you've earned. And I say that because I think it's important to acknowledge that being a DACA recipient or undocumented, we still have different challenges than others. And that's why we are left in a disadvantage in a lot of these opportunities like professional development. So I wanted to touch a little bit about that. Currently, I am a DACA recipient, and DACA came into my life when I was in my last few months of making my last few payments for my master's. So that is the reason why I feel now I can reflect more, because now I have the privilege of having DACA. So if you are a DACA recipient, hopefully you can use this time as a DACA recipient, be having this privilege to reflect more on how you can better take opportunities of professional development, because you don't have that opportunity when you're fully undocumented. I can tell you right now that I did not really take advantage of a lot of professional development being fully undocumented throughout pretty much all my educational journey. But now that I'm a DACA recipient, I can reflect on that. I can finally take kind of a little bit more of, I can read a little bit more and be able to talk about it more and how I can become a better professional by taking advantage of professional development. So with that said, my experience is being undocumented and having the privilege to have DACA. I did see a few things that kind of were my part of my experience, which is survival mode. I think being undocumented, survival mode is something real, and we do not have the privilege to attend professional development because of lack of time. A lot of us don't have the time to have professional development. I didn't have it during my undergrad, to be honest, and the few times that I did, it was because of lack of time. My time was consumed in working and going to school, trying to survive. And that's one reason why I did not take advantage of professional development. Another point is financial disadvantages. This is another obstacle because many professional development opportunities, they have a fee. There's a fee to attend those professional development. I remember seeing conferences being for student $300. And if you're not a student, it's even more. It's like $400, right? So that discouraged me from taking advantage of professional development. And the other piece is the disconnect. I felt like, I think Eder just mentioned part of that, the disconnect from the information being presented on the website about this professional development that I kind of didn't understand. I was like, why would I need something like that? I was more worried about my now that didn't think about my future so much. So I didn't have that's where the disconnect happened. The other piece of the disconnect is that I felt that those workshops or those conferences were not for people like me. It made me feel as if that it wasn't aimed for me. So I didn't feel like really I wasn't encouraged to participate in those professional development. And then the last thing I want to say about this is that I really felt out of place a lot of times for those few instances that I did have the opportunity to attend professional development opportunities, and I did attend those opportunities, I didn't see people like us, to be honest. So I felt uncomfortable sometimes, and I felt out of place, like I didn't belong in those spaces. And I think it's important to remind ourselves of for me, my experiences really helped me to understand that it took really so long for me to be exact. It took me to be in my doctoral program to get the courage to reflect on these experiences, and to be a DACA recipient made a significant impact in my life to be able to reflect now on that. And like the ones I just mentioned, all these points like disconnect, out of place, all these different points that I just mentioned, that is really the reason why it led me to create Undocumented Professionals. But there's so much context that I can tell you why that platform was created. But that is the reason, because I didn't feel like there was a lot of professional development in our communities. I didn't see professional development opportunities for people like me, et cetera, et cetera. So what I think is important to remind ourselves is to remind ourselves that professional development is needed, is important, and to try to do your best to get those opportunities for you.
Awesome. And Sharid, could you speak a little more about the organization that you founded, the Undocumented Professionals, and how college students could utilize it or potentially utilize it in the future?
Yes. So Undocumented Professionals was just created 2 years ago. So if you've never heard about it, I wouldn't be surprised because it's new. It's a new platform. And the reason why I created the platform is to bring a space where we can share our stories, share our experiences, but at the same time, be able to provide a new level of opportunities for professionals. And what I mean with that is one of the goals of Undocumented Professionals is to continue having workshops, professional development workshops in the 3 tiers, which is education, So things like, having a panel of graduate students so we can have conversations like this one, or the other I guess tire is the personal development. We have workshops for DACA recipients that are applying for the first time, or renewals. That's important, right? Because if we don't have DACA, then we're not going to be able to get a job. So knowing the steps, being informed of the most up-to-date information is important. And then the last piece will be career development, which is opportunities to talk more about how different panels in different educational fields. We also have a conference. We're going to be working on that conference again this year. We're going to have a yearly conference that happens every September of every year. We had the first conference last year in which we brought all these different career panels in education, entrepreneurship, STEM programs, etc., in which we had over 600 people register and 100 people participated per day. It was a full week conference for 5 days. And we're doing so many collaborations with schools, so that way because what I've noticed is, of course, like I just mentioned earlier, we have the disadvantage of being financially disadvantaged. And I'm collaborating with schools so that way we can bring those resources to the whole community instead of just being for their students, and then being available for the community for free. And that's the goal, to continue collaborating with schools, organizations, businesses, whatever we need to bring those resources. And they're all being facilitated, all this professional development opportunities are being facilitated by professionals, by the community. And that's what makes it so different than any other platform. I mean, I don't know any other platform that does that. So that's the reason why that platform is created. And it wouldn't be possible without the support of all the undocumented professionals in the network. So I highly encourage everyone, Jorge, Eder, to be part of that community. Everyone is welcome. You don't have to be a professional to be part of that platform. You can be a student. You can be someone in the community, an individual. The resources that we want to provide are for everyone, but also I want to invite always the community to join, because there's so many different ways that you can participate and be part of the community.
Awesome, thank you for that. And you did mention earlier about your internal psychology, about how you felt that when there was professional development, how like this wasn't for me because I don't see people like me here, and other things that kind of you had a certain belief system. And for those, I think that's like part of like most undocumented students. And for those undocumented students that feel that way right now, that have jobs and go to school at the same time, and are going through the same thing that you went through, what is something that you would let them know now that you reflected on professional development?
Yes, thank you for asking that. Well, some tips, my personal experience is really, I want to say, to take advantage of having the student status in any institution. As a student, you have a privilege, and also you're paying for it. It's not just a privilege. Yeah, it's a privilege because you're in school and you're considered a student status, but you are paying to be there, right? You're paying for the services. There's a student fee, there's a health fee, you get all these types of fees. And if you haven't noticed that you get all those fees, look at that, because you're paying for it. So take advantage that those services are available for free in your campus. I wish I would have taken more advantage of like the health fees, for example. I never really did that. I didn't know that I could get some, and now there's even more help than before. Like now there's just different things that schools provide, which I feel is making it a little bit better for the students. I'm providing more services. So take advantage of that. Because once you're not a student, like once you become a professional, you no longer belong to these institutions. You no longer have those benefits. I just mentioned earlier that if you have a student status, you get discounts from a lot of these professional development opportunities. You're not going to be able to do that once you graduate and you got your degree and you're no longer part of that institution. So just take advantage of that. The other thing I would say is one of my favorite words being undocumented is free. Everything that you can get for free, I would say take advantage of it. If it's something that takes you an hour to go to because it's free, I would say it's worth it. Go and take advantage of that. The other place that I would visit a lot would be the Career Center. I was always updating my resume, and if someone gave me an advice, review my resume, I would go again to someone else because I wanted to have 3, 4 eyes to look at it, so that way it can get better. Because different things catch different things. So I'm sorry, different people catch different things on the resume, and the more people can view it and give you their feedback, the better. Also, the other thing I would say is making like meaningful relationship with the staff that you're connected in as a student. That's something that really helped me. I didn't have a lot in my network, but the few professors that I was able to get, like, to have a meaningful connection. And when I say meaningful, I mean like you take your time to get to know that person. You really have to kind of also share a little bit about you. You have to share if you feel comfortable. Of course, not everybody feels comfortable sharing about their immigration status, but I chose like 3 or 4 staff that I intentionally wanted to connect with because they were either someone that I liked the way they worked or I liked the way they were giving their classes, whatever it may be. And I was able to get opportunities by them getting to know me more. They invited me to participate in events. So they invited me to take part of professional development opportunities. And I took advantage of that. And that helped me to gain more experience in my profession, right? And then the other last thing would be really getting involved in organizations and clubs, because honestly, that really is an opportunity not only to network, but to develop maybe opportunities on certain assignments. Like I know I was in a like Chicano Latino organization during my undergrad. I went to UC Santa Barbara, and they had a big, like a huge Chicano organization there, and I was able to get to those to get to meet a lot of people there, and they allowed me to present my first workshop that I ever did during my undergrad for a big conference they had. So those are the opportunities you can start trying to get, at any time. This can happen at any time. The sooner you do start getting yourself into professional development opportunities, I think the better. I just wish I would have known a little bit sooner so I could have done it more.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your experience. I'm sure our students that are watching can get a lot out of that. And then Eder, so as an undergrad, I know that you're now working towards your master's. But as an undergrad, how did you navigate professional development? Could you share with us your experience?
Yeah, and if anything, sure, yeah, we're old now. Because how do I say this? So, I mean, back on the day, and maybe sure you can relate to this, right? There was only the AB 540 form. That's it. There was no California Dream Act. There was no driver's license, just the form. And if you had a good enough counselor, they will tell you about it. If you didn't, you had to hustle or you had to find some other connections, right? So at least for me, I I didn't know what professional development went, like I said before, but I think I encountered it in my undergrad experiences in 2 locations. So first, I went to City College in SF, and in senior year, I was able to apply for this scholarship, the Mason Scholarship Foundation, which was a renewal scholarship for 4 years. But at the same time, they had internship opportunities, right? So before going to City College, I was working 2 jobs, like many of us do, right, to help my family, whatever, right? The construction, and also as a swim instructor. So in those 2 categories, right, we, as a swim instructor, you're supposed to give reports to the parents orally, and they'll see you, of course, how you treat your kid. So you have to behave. Right? You can just throw the kid like that. I didn't know that that instance was a me of professional development, customer service. and just with also with Spanish speaking parents, but also English monolinguals, right? And also how does the Boys and Girls Club, for example, operated at the time. So for me, I didn't know that was professional development. Construction was a little different. It was a very male-oriented profession, to say that. So I learned just different things, like interactions, to say that, because I was like one of the youngest one, and everyone was like older. While at the Boys and Girls Club, everyone was like my age, and then the little morrillos, or the little like kids, right? So it's a little different. But it makes me understand it's like, how do I relate to different people of different ages, right? Or people who are closer to my age, and also the parents, to say that. And then, so I spent 3 years in City College, and on my second year, um, the Scholarship Foundation, they sent an email to everyone. It's like, hey, there's this internship opportunity in the office. Apply, you get it. I applied for it, right? And they knew I didn't have papers. But I asked, like, hey, so, and they told me, yeah, that, at the end of this internship experience for a whole semester, I think it was spring del 2009, I want to say. I'm trying to remember, or 2010, one of those. They asked, like, hey, yeah, at the end of this experience, we're going to give you a stipend. And I was like, what is a stipend? And they're like, oh, it's like a small scholarship. It's like, oh, okay. This was the first time I was working in an office. I had no idea what the hell I was doing. So I was asking questions, right? It's like, okay, so what do I do? Because I know this is the list of responsibilities, right? But how do they really emerge in the office space instead of just reading it? So it was a learning process. It was difficult for me from being very flexible spaces to having to dress in a different way, to having to behave in a different way. Um, Having to enter data, having to look at files, having to look at graduation this and that, Salesforce, and I was like, oh my god. And I was clearly, okay, working in an office long term is gonna be difficult. But anyway, that was my first step, you could say that, into working in an office, a different job that I never had before. Okay, and then I transferred to San Francisco State. Now at this time, I just declared sociology as my major. And maybe I should highlight this. Thank you for those professors in City College of SF and San Francisco State who added in their classroom curricula that it was required for us to go to the professional career centers, because some professors had that, and you had to go there, go with your resume, and come back and show that to the teacher to get points. So I am always grateful for those professors who forced us, right? Because they were telling us indirectly, this is professional development. It's not some professors don't see it as their job. That's just on their own good pedagogical approach to say that, right? Um, so I did have a resume, but it wasn't the best. But it was a project to say that you always have to keep working on that. Once I finished my internship, I added that to my resume, of course. And then when I was in San Francisco State, um, I also got another job. Um, I work actually with college track. But at the time, this job was also a connection to a friend who worked at the Amazing Scholarship Foundation. He just transferred there to college track, and he's like, "Yeah, just apply." I'm like, "Okay," so I'm filling the application in front of his face. I'm like, "Hey, so I don't have an SSA, and you know that?" And he's like, "Don't worry about it. Just give me your IT number." I'm like, "My IT number?" And he's like, "Yeah, you're gonna work as an independent contractor, so I don't really need we don't. From my end, I'm not gonna care for your SSA. I'm just need your IT number." And then from me came to be that that's how you work later on as an independent contractor with your IT number, which was nice. So I worked for a whole semester there too. That was fun. And that was another office environment, but it was more towards higher education, which is something that I was becoming familiar, and I liked it. And it was interaction with high school and middle school and high school students, right? That's awesome. And then, and then I went also to SFST for like 3 years. And then on my second year, right, I was like, and I also had my thought about it. It's like, okay, if we stay in this country, right, and of course, if you learn a lot of history, you know that they're not going to fix the immigration issue at all. This country needs cheap, replaceable labor. That they, and it's a continuous thing. It's not gonna. They need it to sustain itself, right? And I was like, shit, like, what do I do? Because even if I were to get a master's, right, I will have to either work multiple jobs or find a good ass company that will use my IT number. It was tricky, not impossible, but very tricky, right? Until I met a professor, and I was even thinking, okay, I finished at SFST, um, and to Sharet's point that in SFST and City College, I was able to apply for more scholarships because I disclosed to my professors, hey, by the way, can I get a letter of rec? I got an annual class, I have no papers. You want to help me pay for my education? And they were tight because I visited the office hours. I asked genuine questions. So I gained their trust. And when they start joking with you, you know that there's a line that they cross. I'm like, okay, you are clearly comfortable with me, but that's fine. So I was thinking of maybe going back to Peru with a master's from SF State, and I speak English, right? I can work in the tourist industry and I will make it money, right? That's plan A, plan B, and this is something that a lot of our undocumented peers might understand, that you always need a plan A, B, and C. In case everything falls, then you have this backup, the backup, right? On top of like not just you trying to make your way towards the college system, right? And professional development, you're also worried about like, am I gonna be here next week? Is my mom going to be here next week? What happens if she gets deported? Again, there's a lot of issues that take place at the same time. So it's like you're always fractioned everywhere. You're in many places. But anyway, so I was thinking that, and this professor told me like, and he became like an informal mentor. I never really called him a mentor, but I kind of got the sense that he was. And he's like, Mr. Samuri, why don't you apply to grad school? And I was like, why? You know I have no papers, and you know that it's expensive. And he's like, I think you can do the work. I think you can do the job. Don't worry about that. It's gonna come down to how the department finances your being in that program, right? Which he meant you were gonna be a research assistant, right? If you have no papers, but you're still going to college, to grad school, right? So I was like, oh crap. So, and also another point to that I agree with Sharon, like to highlight for those of you who are in any college, right, not just limited to San Jose State, join student clubs because they're gonna have events where at least you have a workshop for free where you can talk to someone about interviewing skills, networking skills, working in your resume. I was lucky enough to join Hermanos Unidos at San Francisco State, and they had those workshops. Even late, but it doesn't matter. I mean, yeah, it's not perfect, but hey, that's a good start, and you just pick up from there and take it from there. You have to just go roll with the punches to say that. Um, and from there, I went to grad school. I did have a decent resume. I did get a job with, oh God, what are those companies? Intrax Work and Travel, where they bring your foreigners to work for the summer in the US. And if you're in San Francisco, you're going to meet a lot of people from Ireland working for just the summer, or people from, I don't know any countries there, just a bunch of countries. Anyway, Um, so it was again back to the office in a different scale, dealing with different people, dealing with government staff a little bit because we had to look at the visas and everything like that, making sure that everything is regulated, right? The things that I was like, oh God, but it doesn't matter. It's just giving you money. You need the money, another professional experience. It doesn't matter. You just have to do it. And it's a process of becoming comfortable with the uncomfortable. It's a process of growing, of self-development, to say that. And then I went to grad school, and when you go to a PhD program, it's a different process. Becoming professional, at least for a PhD route in social sciences or humanities, is more like you learning how to write grants or write for grants. You petitioning for your IRB because you need approval to interview people and things like that. But not all PhD programs train you to be outside academia. So after 4 years, I work in EOP as a grad student, you name it, blah blah blah. I had developed a lot of professional experience in regards to serving students, first gen, low income immigrant, you name it, and I left that. So I left. I was like, no, I need a real pay. Being a grad student doesn't pay anything. So that's when I believe I began creating my LinkedIn profile, because that's with the emergence of LinkedIn by then. Because I'm like, well, I'm looking for a real job, and it was funny because unconsciously I had developed good learning, good interviewing skills for the most part. I mean, you're also not lying. You're just reflecting on what you have done before. Is you're not trying to yeah, you need to sell yourself, not sell, but market yourself, right? But also you're being honest to what you did. You're not lying to anyone. I mean, they're gonna call you references too. Um, so yeah, I'll say that that has to do a lot with my professional development. And like Sharet said, it's really a long-term project. You never end, because any job you get, you need to aspire for more. But I'm not saying that you need to, the moment you get a job, you need to aspire with the same. You're like, no, get the job, get the internship, uh, get a sense of the field. And then when you're comfortable enough that you don't feel challenged anymore, then jump to the next level, right? But it's also being open to maybe having the skills that you have learned to jump into a different industry, right? But also finding a company that is understanding of your background, because you don't want to work in a company where people don't look like you, they don't relate to you, and it's just an isolation process, right? Um, I think that's part of what you asked me, Jorge.
Yeah, thank you so much, Eder. Yeah, it's really good to hear what your experience was as an undergrad. And for those, okay, so I'm gonna go to my next question, and Sharet, I'm gonna ask you first. What are some skills that you found useful for professional development?
Yes, I think I'm going to add to what Eda just said, which is continuing to try to be uncomfortable with yourself. Honestly, we get into, I'm going to give you a real example that just happened to me, which is I'm applying now for tenure positions, and for the first time, after 4 years of being adjunct, I'm an adjunct professor counselor at community colleges. I am finally getting invited for interviews. I tried like 2 years ago when I was only 2 years as an adjunct, but now I'm 4 years into being an adjunct, and I see that my professional skills that I've learned throughout those 4 years have really changed and made I guess my experiences and my resume much better. So some of those skills are definitely professional because of professional development. My network has grown so much. I mean, from 2 years from when I started my profession 4 years ago, I probably was not doing a lot of networking, and I only had I less than 100 people in my network, and now suddenly my network went to 500, 600 people, and that's very significant. Being a well-networked person really can impact your professional development, and it can help you with making the next career move that you're trying to make. I think that's what's making me kind of stand out more. But you want to also remind yourself that I think you want to, being undocumented, a person of color, immigrant, whatever your situation, that actually can be an asset for you. I feel like you can turn it into being an asset, and that's what's going to make you different than somebody else trying to get that position. Of course, I'm kind of making it seem like that's going to be it, because we have to remember that there's a lot of obstacles. I mean, I just recently shared something on undocumented professionals that we are networking at a disadvantage. We are networking disadvantage, which means that I just learned that in two of the positions that I applied to that were tenure, one of them, they already had a person lined up that they wanted from inside. Obviously, I don't know those people, right? Because I don't have the network. They have the network. Whoever is in those positions have the network. So we have to remind ourselves that we're still the minority when it comes to, and we're still in a disadvantage, and we still have more barriers than others. So when I go to this, I'm learning because I'm still learning, right? I just got like my first interview. So I know that I'm probably gonna be 2, 3 more interviews before I land my job. It's just a matter of time and of practice of getting these interviews pretty like that I have to do. So what I've learned, basically what I'm trying to say is that because I'm in a disadvantaged position, being undocumented and not having the network, because of that, I've learned that I have to really do very well on my interviews. Like I have to really have have full points on my interview because it's by point, right? So that's I guess my learning experience so far that I want to share with you, because it's important that we have those real conversations that, yeah, we are going to be different. Something sets us apart. But at the end of the day, the reality is we are in a disadvantage. And yes, we can switch it and try to make it into our advantage, being undocumented, being a person of color, bringing new experiences and new asset into these companies or organizations, schools, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, you still have to excel. You have to try to do the best than anybody else so you can stand up. Stand out, I mean, not stand up. So that's what I'm learning. So I think that's what the skills that I'm learning is, that networking is important. Keep having more professional development. Now I have the privilege of getting paid for professional development by my school. And I can tell you the first thing when I start my job at the beginning of a semester is how much professional development do I have? Because I'm going to take full advantage of that. And at the beginning, when I first started in my professional field in counseling, I didn't even know I had professional development. It just happened that there was a conference and I wanted to go to a conference. And I asked I guess my supervisor, who was the chair of counseling, and I said, "Hey, do you think I can go to this event?" Because it was overlapping with my schedule at my job. So he told me that, oh yeah, that's when I learned that I had paid professional development. Sometimes they don't tell you that you have professional development. It's like you have to do, just like, unfortunately, like everything we do, we kind of have because we're the first in our family. I didn't know that I had professional development. It just happened that I asked if I could attend a workshop or a conference. And that's when I found out that I had paid up professional development. But as an employee, that is your responsibility. That's why there's an employee handbook, and you're supposed to you're the responsible one to know whether you do have paid professional development opportunities in your job or not. That's just me and my experience in working in a school. I know that's different for everybody else because it really depends where you work, right? If you have that, that's why I feel the privilege, and I want to take advantage of it now that I can, of using that professional development.
Yeah, thank you so much for your answer. And Eder, I'm gonna go ask you now. What are some skills that you found useful for professional development?
No, yeah, and if anything, maybe I should have said this way earlier. So, as like you said before, I'm an intern, right? A graduate student intern with the Undocumented Research Center at San Jose State. But during the day, I actually work for a nonprofit, Peninsula College Fund, that supports low-income first-generation students in college, right? Um, and you're right, it really comes down to the company that you're being employed or that you have an internship with, if they have those opportunities. I know that at least when I was employed or when I worked for the Gear Up grant through CSU Monterrey, they had the opportunity because it was part of the whole grant and you name it. Now, with nonprofits, it might be a little different. It really comes down to budget. I know that when I came in my first year, I was able to go to a conference in DC and network. And it's really just you going to different workshops, networking with people, talking to people, and you're like, oh, shoot, these people are tight. But then, of course, right, every year is different. And this year we have no money for professional development. So what we're encouraged to do, but also it's up to us as individuals, right? If we want to seek more, is for like Shara said, look for free events, right? That are relevant to you and that you're also curious about, because who knows, something might come up from that. And I went to one of those events and I was able to network again. Yes, it's not the same because through Zoom, nothing is the same. But regardless, through those connections, and once you add them to your network, you can see if their companies are hiring or not. You can see what companies they work and the values that they stand behind with. I will say that another skill besides networking, whatever the form that is, whether it's virtual or face to face or through conferences or your work or friends, you name it, it's also being open to get feedback from others. You need to learn how to be receptive of feedback and don't take it as negative. If anything, well, some people are good at giving you feedback. Some people will be good at that. Others, they don't have those skills developed and they will make you feel like crap. But some of them have good intentions. They just don't know how to phrase that in a nice way. Be open to receiving feedback. Also be flexible. Because as you become a professional, you're gonna potentially be working on teams or have projects with others. You need to understand how others operate and be flexible and try to meet them where they're at. And especially when you have a lot of patience, right? But if you don't have patience, then you're gonna have to learn how to become patient with everyone else. So there are some skills that are part of your personal set of skills of who you are. But even if you don't have them, you need to like cultivate them and learn them how to grow through time. I'm very frank for the most part, and I know I can come as aggressive. I have learned how to control that for the most part, for the most part. So that's one thing that I have to work, and I need to keep working on that. You know, that's the skills that we'll have to carry, and that's gonna go hasta el día que me vaya. Anyway.
Yeah, thank you, Heather, for that. So yeah, that's I'd like to say from my point of view also, personal skills is very important for professional development. I also think that part of the reason why I'm intern here at the Undocumented Spartan Resource Center is was the way I communicated with Anna. You know what I mean? Um, and, I have to say that my personality probably had a lot to do with being hired, because a lot of positions were a lot of people applied for the intern position that I applied for. And and this, the other thing is, like you guys mentioned earlier, networking. When I met Anna, it was at the Docu Spartan Resource Center. I had a couple questions to about like the scholarship that I had received, and I think she was part of the panel that dealt with the students with the U.S. Dream Scholarship. And that's how I met Anna. And I would go with her consistently, asking her questions about this and just conversate. And she would tell me about the school and about things. And I think that had a lot to do with me getting this position. So definitely personal skills and networking, I think, is very important. Like Sharid said, that she knew already that that position where she was applying, they already had someone lined up. So I think that's similar to the way it was worked with me and Anna, because she told me she wanted me to join. So, but the position was still open. So that is very important. Personal skills and networking is so important. And we hear, at least from me, I hear that a lot from professors saying that networking is like one of the most important things when getting employed. So the people who you know, that can help you a lot. Um, yeah, so thank you guys for your inputs. And now we're going to go into resources that students can utilize for professional development. And Sharid, I'm going to ask you, is there any resources from your point of view that you could share for students to help them with professional development?
Yes, and I just wanted to just make a comment to what Heather said. You look like you're a very approachable person. You don't look like you get like upset right away. So for me, that was like, what, Heather? I don't see that. But yes, Jorge, thank you so much. You mentioned two very important skills that you can get, which is networking, and also you said the other one. Can you remind me again of the other one? Besides, oh,
Yeah, personal skills.
personal skills. Yes, um, I agree completely with that. And if we can add one more, is it's gonna be communication, being able to not be very shy. I was definitely more in the shy side during my undergrad, and I think that was definitely a big issue for me. Um, and I tried to get into spaces where I could talk about my story, or may have just a workshop that I could do, something that could help me get more practice into that. But I think I should have done more. I think it would have helped me more. But in general, we're always going to have to, especially if you're going to continue going into grad school or getting into a professional program, communication skills is very, very important. You're going to have to present all the time. And honestly, that's what I've learned so much in my doctoral program right now, that, just all we do is basically do kind of workshops, presentations. That's what we're doing most of the time. I want to say 90% of the time, and also being in teams, being in groups, so that way you can work together and we're all coming together and present whatever the topic is that we're learning about. So I just wanted to add that, continue making, there's always areas of improvement. Feel don't feel like you're the only one that has to do that. We all have we all have our strengths and our weaknesses. So just keep focusing on the areas that you need more help with. For everyone it looks different, and just continue growing on that. And then in regards to the resources, is for undocumented professionals, we do have a lot of resources about networking. Most, like I said earlier, my goal is to really have it open and available, all of these resources to the community, because when I was a student, and when I transitioned as a professional, I felt like a huge disconnect from the community, because I no longer participated in the organizations and the clubs that I was in before. And then suddenly I became a professional, and I felt pretty lonely in my professional journey. And that's another reason why I created Undocumented Professionals, because I wanted to be connected with my community again without being part of an institution. So that's the reason. So definitely networking is a big piece. I think that we need to start the networking with each other. We learn so much from each other because we already share so many resources. The goal is to expand it to allies and to expand it to formerly undocumented and more. But in the meantime, right now, I think it's more important for me that we network with each other because it starts with us. Like, how do I expect an ally to help me, to support me, if I don't even have the support or I'm not helping my own community? So it starts with us, I think, and then hopefully we can expand to more our networking. And then also, we have free networking events. Now we're available in Clubhouse. We're in LinkedIn. We have a private Facebook. We also have Zoom networking events. I know online is a little bit different, but honestly, if I have learned something, is this platform on Professionals became a national platform because of COVID, because we went online. Otherwise, I would say that we probably would be more geared towards like California because that's where I'm at. But it's grown, I think, because of that, because now we can do everything online. So that's maybe the only good thing that maybe happened during this very bad times of COVID. And then the other thing that we are really focusing is really our networking, and then also building community is the other big piece that I'm trying to push for this platform. And what I mean with building community is we want to be able to support each other. I believe that we're not a competition to each other. We're supposed to be helping each other because we're all in the same, I want to say the same hustle of trying to do better, getting to better positions. So my goal is to support you in any way that I can. So I do have collaborations with other professionals that are very knowledgeable in areas that I'm not knowledgeable because I don't know everything, right? And it's also important to bring other perspective, other professionals that want to also share their experiences. So I'm currently collaborating with other professionals, and this is why I bring workshops like in mental health. I'm not a psychologist, but now I have another professional that does have, that's their area of expertise, and now we're collaborating and bringing resources to the community. We also have workshops around home buying. I'm a huge advocate about that because I believe that we need to invest more in our community, and that we also need to become homeowners if this is something that we want to have. I became a homeowner 4 or 5 years ago, and honestly, it has allowed me to survive during COVID because I was able to rent my garage and be able to get myself another extra $1,000. And that's how I was able to survive. And those are the little things that make a big difference in our lives. So that's why I advocate for that. And we have workshops on that. I'm also providing resources, scholarships, internships. We did have the first scholarship for undocumented professionals. We were able to give 3 scholarships. We also help. It's just so many things that we're doing with that. So if you want to get involved, please reach out. Please go to the website. I'm gonna go ahead and add it in the chat, or actually, I don't know. Yeah, let me add it to the chat. It's undocuprofessionals.net. And yeah, and we do have a free mentorship program that is available to anyone. It doesn't matter if you're a student or not a student. It doesn't matter if you took a long break from school. Doesn't matter what age you are. If you identify as being undocumented, DACA, mixed status, formerly undocumented, you can either become a mentor or a mentee. I've had some that have done both, mentor and mentee. And I've also had undocumented professionals that have become 2 times mentees, 3 times, because it's the 3rd time that we're doing the mentorship program. And we're making it longer because we want to make sure that we are able to make like more intentional relationships that are going to be long-term relationships. So we're doing it longer now, the mentorship program. It used to be just like 1 month, then we was 2 months, and now it's 3 months of the mentorship program. And I think that's really going to make a big difference. And there's definitely going to be more things to come. We're currently developing new resources for the community. So hopefully you'll be able to either join or to follow Undocu professionals. So that way, this is your community. I mean, we're trying to make it available for everyone. So
Yeah, thank you so much. And would you like to share a little bit of the website? I do have shared access. This is only if you're comfortable right now.
oh, to share the website?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can do that. No problem. And do you have any questions, by the way, about
About Undocumented
the
professionals?
platform, about Undocu Professional?
No questions, but from what I understand, it is a platform where undocumented professionals and non-professionals like students can go and network, right? And then you guys have, like you said, you mentioned a lot of the things that you guys done already, like workshops and scholarships and mentor programs. And I find this very useful for students. This is like because this is focused on the community. So I want to give you a big thank you and props for doing this for the community.
Yeah, no problem. So I wanted to share something, which is that I'm really an advocate about getting paid for our services. If you follow Undocu Professionals, you're gonna see that I'm a huge advocate of like making sure that you get paid for the services. So when you collaborate with me and you're an Undocu professional that wants to collaborate in a workshop, you're gonna get paid for your services. In one way or another, we're gonna find ways how you're gonna get paid. My goal is again to collaborate with all these organizations in schools, so that way it's a win-win situation where the information is being provided to the students, but at the same time, the professional facilitating those services is also getting paid. So that's why I say it's a new level of opportunities. The goal is to do this with not just schools and not with just the dream centers, is to do it with organizations, businesses, nonprofits, etc. Because that's going to allow the opportunity for professionals to get paid, whether they're get paid with a social security or with an ITIN number, by still being able to provide their services to organizations and schools and everything. So that's really my goal. And when I work with someone, if they want to become an intern, my goal is that they get paid for their services when they come to Undocu Professionals. And that's what I'm trying to do. It's slowly growing organically, and I'm changing it as we go, depending on the needs, depending on the feedback that I keep getting. For me, that's very important. I'm always getting feedback, asking how can we make improvements, and that's why we keep making a few changes here and there. So I do want to provide you with something that just got added, which is the community programs. And this is where I said it, there's a mentorship program. Unfortunately, it just closed for the spring and the summer. This is the one for the spring and the summer. And it gives you all the info about what the program is, how long is it going to be, what kind of tires are we looking at, which is what would you benefit from being both a mentor or a mentee. And that's what we do. And if you want to sign up, you sign up in any of this too, whether you want to be a mentee or a mentor. This is the frequently asked questions that we have. A lot of our a lot that are interested in becoming a mentor or a mentee, they don't know if they want to be a mentor because they don't feel prepared to be a mentor. You know, this is common in our communities because we don't empower ourselves. We don't believe we're good enough sometimes to be a mentor. But I believe that there should be no specific requirement to be a mentor, as long as you want to put your time and you have something that you want to share with someone that maybe is just going to start their undergrad. For example, we do have high school students that do sign up to be mentees. You will make a difference. Everyone has a research. I don't believe that you have to have a master's to be a mentor, or that you have to have a PhD to be a mentor. Anybody can be a mentor. So that's the only That's one of the most frequently asked questions that I get. But if you want more information about the mentorship program, we have like all the frequently asked questions here. Because the conference is coming soon, let me go to events. Oh, this is a conference that happened last year. Because the conference is huge and we're making a few changes this year, I am gonna ask, I'm gonna be needing interns for that. So if you're interested, just keep an eye on this. As soon as it's available, I'll definitely make an announcement of interns that may want to help out with the conference, that we are probably gonna need help with the conference because it's huge, right? It's a huge conference. This is what we had last time. I don't know if you heard about it, Jose.
I didn't hear about it. I just found out about undocumented professionals this year, actually, that I started my internship on the Undocumented Spartan Resource Center. And we found you through Instagram. Mhm.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so we had different career panels. We had it in education. We had career panels in STEM, entrepreneurship. We had business, um, and there's more that I can't think of. Oh, health. It was health. So we had like honestly, it was a great conference. I didn't expect to have over 600 people register. I was prepared for maybe, 100 people. So the fact that so many were interested just showed me that this is needed and in our communities. So that's why we're intending to make it bigger this next year. And that's why I know that I'm going to need a lot of volunteers or interns that may want to be involved in this. So I would definitely keep an eye on that for any of your students. Like I said, it was a lot. It was career panel. We had a career panel in law and community organizing where we had lawyers in the different areas in law to come and provide information about how they navigated their education and how they transitioned to become professionals. And then the STEM, like I mentioned, we did have nurses. We had a professor that was an adjunct engineering professor. Just so many different career panels. And then we also had, in addition to the career panels, we had workshops and all professional development workshops for free. We didn't charge for any of this. We had like healing money wounds workshop, having better relationships with money. We lack that in our community sometimes. And also we even had a artist educator who gave classes in clay just as something fun. Sometimes we deserve to have that kind of professional development of just doing things for fun, or like you said, getting out of our comfort zone. And then Jocelyn, she said she provided a workshop about navigating graduate school while being a DACA recipient, and so much more. Right? You can look into this a little bit more so you can get the feel of what you will see in the upcoming conference. And there's just so many other things that you can get involved in. Our events on our website is not very updated because we just have so many going on that it's hard to keep up with what we're doing with the website. But we hope to provide like a calendar. That's what's on the works right now. Having a calendar and just putting the different events happening. So at least you have the most updated information. But we have different types of workshops. We have everything from advanced parole application assistance workshop to workshops like home buying, which is what I was mentioning. So different types of workshop because I'm getting the feedback of the community and depending on what they are asking for. Right now, there's a lot in the community that are asking for financial workshops like how to manage your money, how to invest, how to reduce your debt, things like that. So we're looking into doing those types of workshops. And then the other one that is coming up is something, I don't remember the title, but it's basically gonna be how to get into a doctoral program, like, or how to research the doctoral program being on something like that. I can't think of the title right now. But those are some of the workshops that are coming. Just you know, go ahead and we also have a LinkedIn account. I think Eder mentioned that LinkedIn is very, very important. Very important. I think in our community, we need to keep reminding the community to be involved in LinkedIn. It's a great way to get exposure to just telling people about your services that you provide. There's a lot of people have reached out to me through LinkedIn because of that. So just keep getting involved in some way or another, whatever works for you. We're trying to make it available in all these different platforms. So whatever works better for you, you can have choices of which one, how you want to get involved. So hopefully that helped you. I don't know if you have any questions. I think Jose's camera.
Jorge, can you hear us?
Oh my God. I keep saying Jose. I don't know why.
No, it's okay. Oh, I think his internet maybe is
Oh,
out, but anyway, no, if anything, thank you for creating such a impressive website. I mean, I know that this is going to be very important for everyone right now. Well, now that we actually have that everyone almost has inter access to internet, LinkedIn is the best way for us to just explore more and get to know these websites. And I'm like, props to you for doing this. And it's not an easy task. And just to have a conference of such magnitude and trying to just connect with people, but also build a meaningful relationship with them, right? To have these serious workshops, but also in a way relatable because they're based on their personal experience. It's not like it's indifferent of them, no, like they lived it. It's personal to them because you every now and then you might go to a conference when you're seated as a presenter. Doesn't really they're just doing it because they got paid, but there's no passion behind it. It's just information that the person is just throwing at you with no way to connect that. But oh, hey Jorge, ya regresaste.
I'm sorry. I keep saying Jose. I'm like, maybe porque es Jose. I'm like,
Sorry, guys. My
sorry.
internet connection cut off right now. Pretty
Pena,
weak Wi-Fi.
sorry.
But yeah, thank you for sharing everything on the website. And Edith, I think you were answering the question as well about the the tools that students that are available to them. Mhm.
Yeah, no, if anything, I was giving Shari props for the website. It's great. So maybe the way students, right, in addition to the website that you have created, which is great and it's gonna get even better, right, as as the year goes by. And this is a point that we all need to realize. If you are, whether it's a community college, a CSU, UCU private college, right, whether it's undergrad or grad, use the resource center that they have or the professional career job resource center because you're paying for those fees. Make the fees work for you. Does just don't let it just go in waste. Just use it. And yes, it's not gonna be perfect because not everyone knows what DACA means or not everyone knows what is being undocumented. But you gotta start somewhere. And this is even more when you don't have any siblings or in college and you're the only one. It's even worse when you're going to a college that people don't look like you, right? So you need to become very independent in that matter, and that's something that just goes along the way. At the same time, now that there's internet, go to LinkedIn, create your profile, and nobody's saying that it has to be perfect, but you gotta start somewhere. And what LinkedIn helps you do is that you can type pretty much any job, and it will give you jobs in any pretty much anywhere in the world. And the reason why I say that is not just for you to apply to the job. It's like no, no, no. Looking for an internship or a job is a part-time job if itself because you need to look at the company history as I said, but also at the duties and responsibilities, right, that company has and that you or whoever's applying to, right, needs to be versed and or somewhat familiar. And that itself is applying for a job. There's research behind it, and it does take time. When we're applying to jobs, we just don't apply to one. We apply to maybe 5 or 10, but it does take time to apply for jobs out there. And in addition to this, right, if you're going to San Jose State, for example, we have Handshake, and some of you guys might get emails from them saying new employers from this company coming to speak on this time. Grad students, we have this workshop, this company. So if you can, if time allows, use those resources. That is for free. You're not being charged. And most colleges have their own system to say that. Now, yes, the system is not perfect. It's gonna throw you 100 jobs. You can narrow it down just like LinkedIn. Again, it's up to you to research them and if you're eligible or not. Some of them are contractor jobs, others require to be a citizen, so it's a no, right? So it's up to you. I mean, that's what you. It takes time, and it can be frustrating because you're good. You will be a perfect fit for this job, but they want you to be a U.S. citizen. You're like, damn it. Next, don't just get frustrated at the job that you couldn't apply. Keep looking for the next one because there's always a next, and it's just a constant matter of trying and trying, trying until. Well, and this is the thing. I'm not saying that you need to allocate 3 hours a day to do this. Like, no, there's the time that you spend watching Netflix, whether it's a 20-minute series or a 45-minute The Hunting of Hill House or whatever the hell, use that time to look for these opportunities in LinkedIn or even out there just being curious. I'm not telling you to spend 3 hours. I'm telling you to just allocate a few minutes during the day to do this. If you have the time to spend in Instagram looking at random things, spend it looking at jobs and internships. That's a small sacrifice, right?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Heather, for your input. And that's very important. I think what you brought up about the taking the time to do that, because it's more than ever. It's important now because especially if you want to work right after college, the better you prepare yourself, the better chances you're going to have at obtaining a good paying job or secure a job, at least for those students that want to secure jobs. And also, I also like that you mentioned about just keep applying if you don't get hired or this. I think a lot of like the things that us as young students that we have is our fear of failure, of rejection, and eventually we have to overcome that to become confident, because that's where confidence comes from, is knowing how to do something and doing it very well. So in order to do something very well, you just gotta keep doing it repeatedly. Fix that resume, fix and develop your personal skills, all of that. So I think that's very important.
Jorge, can I add to that, to what you just said? I think that is very, very important. I think if anything, if whatever you get from this conversation is to really not be very hard on yourself when you get rejected. I've been rejected so many times from so many different positions. Like I was saying earlier, I tried to apply 2 years ago with 10-year positions, and I would never not even get an interview. Now I'm at least getting interviews. I think that's one step forward, but that's because I kept trying, and not to be hard on ourselves, because when we see those rejections, whether from school or from jobs, don't be too hard on yourself. What I mean with that is just remember that for us, it does look different, not having that connection, not having professional development. We are in a disadvantage, understanding that the systems in place are putting us in a disadvantage, and at least having the general idea of why that happened, why you got rejected. It's not going to be you. It's not because you're not good enough. It's not because you don't belong in those positions. Just keep trying. It's just being trying to excel the next time, trying to be better the next time. And don't do it so much because something that it's gonna not be a healthy thing for you. Like, you don't stress too much about it. You always want to be able to remind yourself that it is a little bit harder for us. Just doing that, because I tell you, the reason I tell you this is because now that I know more how the systems work, how underserved we are and things like that I've gone through, I can understand better those systems. And a lot of times I would blame myself for not being good enough when we are, but it's just a matter of some of the systems in place that make it even harder for us. And just keep trying and not be hard on yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much for your input. And now I would like to share the resources that we have at San Jose State University. The biggest resource that we have as students is the Career Center. So if students have not explored the Career Center, I encourage you guys to really, really explore it, like look into it. because there's a lot of like useful resources here for professional development. Like just looking at this page where it tells you to explore your options, right? So like to connect with mentors, even if it has to meet with a career counselor, so you can go and meet with a counselor to explore your career options. And you can do a lot of the things on your own here. Like here, I find this very useful how there's a career exploration plan. So this right here is a roadmap to career success. And it gives you a step-by-step guide. Like first you explore your options, then you identify your skills, then you build your experience, and then you launch your career. So then it gives you like a, to complete the focus to online self-assessment. So it's like an assessment that for you to discover based on your personality and your interests. It'll recommend you what's probably best for you, or then they're just recommendations, right? To say, hey, you could, like, based on your skills and everything, this assessment, you could be a video editor or a psychological clinicist or something, right? So definitely check out the Career Center, students. I highly encourage it. Another resource that I found useful, that I think is useful, is Pre-Health Dreamers. So this is for the students that are into the health, want to get into health, nurses, doctors. They have a resource page, and this is so useful. It has a list of scholarships, internships, laws and policies, and then they also have uh, um, um, like the NFAQ. There's like a lot of useful stuff here, a lot of information for those students that want to get into health. So I definitely encourage to visit prehealthdreamers.org. Another one is Undocu This is undocumented community. It's a page for undocumented individuals who are entrepreneurship minded. So those who want to work for themselves or be contractors, which is a really good way to have as a backup plan, especially because we don't know about the direction that DACA is going. You know, there are a lot of bills in place, and there's a little bit of hope, but we really don't know. Like Eder said earlier, that they make a lot of the system makes a lot of money out of keeping us undocumented. You know what I mean? So we don't know where the future of DACA is as of right now. It seems safe, but you know, if you're entrepreneur minded, definitely check out undocuhustle.org. And Handshake, you know, that's part of San Jose State. This is where like you can connect with employers and stuff. So these are the resources that we can share with the students. And this is where also Immigrants Rising, you know, these guys have a list of scholarships and fellowships for students that are undergraduates. You know, you have scholarships and fellowships, and they also have for graduate students, you know. And these are if we click on the fellowship list here, I can download the file, and it'll just give me a list of fellowships and scholarships. So this is where I'm gonna leave the the meeting, and thank you so much, Shavit, for joining us again. I really appreciate your input, and you telling us about undocumented professionals, and we think it's a really good thing that you're doing. Thank you for that, and again, Edith, thank you for joining the panel as well, and letting us know your experience as an undergrad and as a graduate student. Um, but yeah, and this is where we will end our meeting. Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you for having us.
Yeah, thank you all.
Bye.